Greetings, YouTube. This morning I'm going to be a bearer of good news. I think that we all can use some. The following is based off of FBI statistics. U.S. homicide rates down 40% between 1992 and 2005. Juvenile homicide rates down 36% between 1993 to 2005. That's for kids younger than 14. Juvenile homicide rates down 60% from 1993 to 2005, ages 14 to 17. Forcible rapes down 28% from 1992 to 2006. In addition, child abuse down by 26% in that same time period, and child sex abuse down 38% in that same time period. This is really good news. This is a trend that is showing that crime rates are not skyrocketing yet. In 2009, Gallup polls asked Americans if they thought that crime rates were going up or down, and 75% of them said up. Now, why is that? Why do Americans think crime rates are going up when they aren't? Because the information they're getting fed to them every day, pretty much like a fire hose from the mainstream media, is that crime is everywhere. Because news companies don't make a lot of money off of positive news. Puppies, nuns, things like that, they may get 5 or 6 seconds a day, but the rest of the time, that's going to be nothing but things that bleed or scream or horrible statistics that are going to make you want to hug your children and cower in a corner, because that keeps your attention on the screen, which means that you watch their ads, which is the real reason for the news, folks. It's not about informing people. It's about keeping you on target for those ads targeted at you. Now, this isn't new. People have been using hyperbole and fear and bleeding, screaming people for their own ends for as long as there have been bleeding, screaming people. But it just is disheartening to me, because in today's environment, you can find information so much more easily. The data is there, it's just most people don't want to look at it. Raising a child in America is the safest time right now that it's ever been to be alive. Your child is more likely to make it to adulthood alive and healthy than any time in human history. And yet the mainstream media gives Americans the impression that behind every rock and tree is a drooling madman waiting to abduct your child. And that isn't so. Of course, the horrible reality is that the children that do suffer at the hands of other people almost always suffer at the hands of someone that they know or is related to them. 90% of sexual abuse survivors knew their abuser. 90%. So that leaves only 10% of sexual abuse survivors were abused by strangers. So it's much more important to make sure that your child understands that they have lines of communication with people who they can trust, both inside and outside your immediate family. Because sometimes your kids need to be protected from the people that they're supposed to be able to trust. And that's the really sad part. But the world out there, it isn't as scary as people want it to seem. We need to understand that there are things that you should be afraid of. But they aren't always what you're being told to be afraid of. They aren't always the scary man behind the tree, because if you look behind the tree, there is no scary man. But as long as the mainstream media can convince you that that possibility exists, as long as they can keep you afraid, you'll keep turning back to that news program, and you'll keep your eyes locked on their advertisers. And I think raising generations of children in fear and causing untold anxiety for parents just so that they can sell a few more lattes or Chevys or iPods is morally reprehensible. But that's me, and I've been working really hard to get rid of anxiety lately, which doesn't seem to be the job of mainstream media. It seems to be, in fact, their job to sell anxiety. Because anxiety makes money.